Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's weekend frivolity, our Broiler Chicken Show. Unfortunately, our director producer is having some power issues at his current location, so he's unable to run the show in the way that we kind of normally do with the intros and all that kind of fun stuff. So my apologies there. Brian's just sort of hitting the buttons on my end. Maybe what I need to do is teach myself how to do all this and maybe relieve Chris of this job, although I really like working with him. So anyway, hopefully we can get that resolved soon. Did spend some time doing up a newsletter here for you here this morning. I will say though that the write-up that we did here, I kind of leaned on Chris a little bit here this morning for him to come up with the write-up, and it's very, I don't know, canned. This artificial intelligence stuff, I mean, I know all you guys love this stuff and it's going to be the future and stuff, but, you know, this is when you read this back, if you do read this back, you'll probably go, that doesn't sound like Brian. Sounds like a fluffy fluff. But oh well. It is what it is. I suppose the whole world's probably going to go through this kind of discombobulated kind of activity as we go through this big celestial event eclipse window. If I understand correctly, Mars and Saturn are going to be conjunct here, which of course never a dull moment. Mars, the god of war, Saturn, the god of chaos and destruction, and oh goodness. And of course you got Vladdy over there in Eastern Europe. He's basically given himself a mandate for another 6 years of shit. So who knows what the hell that clown's got up his sleeves, but I'm sure it's probably not going to be something good for humanity. Or the poor Ukrainians. I will say, though, I am quite pleased to see that the Russians are actually going to start murdering other Russians. So the Russians themselves inside Russia are going to know what the taste of war is like. And I heard in Belgrade there was massive shelling. And so now, hopefully, Joe Six-Pack Russian starts to suffer, starts to feel the pain of loved ones being murdered right, left, and center, and maybe the Russian people will be like, hey, you know what? Maybe this war stuff isn't such a good idea. Who knows? Only time will tell, I suppose. Suppose in my silly little country, we've got the guy in charge is trying to jack through a huge tax increase. What a surprise, fucking communist. That's all they do is know how to steal the populace money. And if they can't jack through tax increases, then they do things like hyperinflate the money supply, which is just yet another tax on the society through inflation. And, you know, even Alan Greenspan himself, if you know who Alan Greenspan is, basically said that this is inflation is basically in money, runaway money printing, which is inflation. It is basically the confiscation of a society's wealth. You can see it happening right in front of your eyes. You know, poor old Canadians. I mean, it's a bit embarrassing how bad it is here. And this is the problem with the socialists is that they just don't get it until you get into absolute runaway hyperinflation that you can't just go and spend money you don't have. It doesn't. That's impossible. You know, as Einstein or not Einstein? Who is it? I think it's Isaac Newton, isn't it? Matter can neither be created nor destroyed. So if you go and print up a whole bunch of currency units to fund your silly government projects, or maybe they're in earnest, who knows? Um, but that money's got to come from somewhere. If you just print it out of thin air, then what ends up happening is the relative purchasing price of that thing you call currency has got to fall in value, and that is your inflation. So, you know, you can and so this jerk is he's hitting us from both sides. not only does he want to raise taxes like to the tune of like 20-30% as of April 1st, but he's also printing more money and spending it on his silly woke agenda. And yet this money doesn't exist. He's just creating it out of thin air, which of course has led to this hyperinflation world that we live in. It's just so sad. I don't know whether we'll get religion. I mean, the problem is that these are democratically elected governments. And when we do have a politician that sort of is like, well, you know, if you live beyond your means and it's time to pay the bills, well, you got to pay the bills. And if you can't, well, you're bankrupt and you got to live a life of poverty. And unfortunately, the last politician who actually had the balls to say something along those lines was a guy named Ronald Reagan when he was campaigning to be president of the United States in 1979 and early 1980. He was elected, and at that point, his platform was smaller government. He was the governor of California for a long period of time, and you know, famously, he went on the Johnny Carson show and just said, you know, we all maybe need to live within our means. And geez, within 6-8 months of him being elected, he mysteriously, somebody took a pop at him and tried to assassinate him. And keep in mind, these banksters, they have a history of doing this. You know, John Wilkes Booth, who knocked off Lincoln, of course, he had great ties to the Southern Confederates. Of course, they all were in cahoots with the bankster class. The banksters wanted to charge Lincoln like 20-30% interest on money that he needed to fund the Civil War to keep the Union together. And he just was like, fuck it, I'm just going to go print my own money and get rid of these stupid banksters. And of course, that was a major problem for the bankster class because, you know, they want to be in control of the money supply. But you can go through history. I mean, Lincoln's a famous case of it, but Booth, he did have ties to the banksters. You know, there's a guy, Old Hickory, down in the States. He was one of the only politicians in the past like 200 years that actually had the balls to stand up to the banksters, and they tried to assassinate him but failed. And you could argue one of the reasons why the United States of America was as strong of a country as it was is because of what he did and then what Lincoln did following. But Woodrow Wilson, 1913, he basically, you know, he laid the groundwork for the world that we live in now. And unfortunately, we live in this world where the only way out of this is there has to be some absolutely horrific civil war here, where, you know, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of innocent humans are going to have to lose their lives because of the Rothschilds' grip on humanity here. I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's kind of tragic, really. Anyway, some people like the fact that at least I have a grip on history. And I work as a pretty good historian for you guys to keep everything in context. So, I don't know, as long as I still have a platform to bark from, I mean, I do find it interesting that, you know, the idiot that's running my country right now actually is trying to pass legislation so that us in the social media field can't stand up and say, you know, you do realize you are the cause of the inflation. You are the cause. You are destroying the purchasing power of the typical Canadian citizen with your silly political agenda. And really, politicians, if anything, ironically enough, I actually think that politicians, their number one job should be, thou shalt do no harm. That should be the number one job of all politicians heading into office, is don't do harm. Don't make the situation worse than when you came into office. And of course, good luck. These people become awfully egotistical, and they actually start to think that they're above their fellow citizens when they get into these positions of power. And you can see, I mean, now the jerk is, I don't know, I don't want to spend the whole damn thing barking about my idiot leader. But don't be surprised if police come knocking at my door one day because I said something that could potentially be deemed politically incorrect, and as a result, Mr. Beamish gets a muzzle. Maybe in the form of jail time, who knows? Anyway, I suppose you could argue that it's the sign of the times. And it appears to me, I think, with these silly humans, about once every 100 years, we have to go through a decade or two of really, really shitty sort of, and just bad times because of the poor economic decisions that are made by our fellow citizens. And this great reset, as Klaus likes to put it, it has to happen about once every 100 years, which is just a massive confiscation of wealth and rebalancing the books, if you will, and start the whole damn game all over again. And keep in mind that the banksters, right, they've got guaranteed salaries. Their salaries are also indexed to things like inflation. So as long as they just keep going and make sure that their bank stays in business. And of course, I'm hearing now talk of like government bailouts in my country because of all this mortgage disaster. So you can already start to see the bailouts, the bullshit. These banks should technically go bankrupt. But they'll get bailouts and they'll keep their jobs and nothing will ever change. I mean, that's the one bad part about China, is it's not very democratic and it kind of flies under the radar screen because it is relatively small in comparison to our big cousin next door. Did find it kind of sad. I heard recently now that China used to be the biggest trading partner with the United States of America. That was something that we actually took a lot of pride in. We were very closely knit, and now Mexico is actually a bigger trading partner with the United States than China. And if Mr. Trump comes piling into power, for damn sure that that's not going to get better. That's going to get worse. I mean, he absolutely hates this little commie dictator up here. I don't know what's going to happen. Anyway, I will say I had a very, very enjoyable trip down the West Coast. Sort of fell in love again with Southern Oregon, why I liked it so much. It's just, hey, if you want to go and get lost in the United States of America, and Oregon itself is relatively tax friendly. I don't think they have a state income tax. So ironically enough, I've got one business partner who's an American, and he hates all the taxes that he has to pay. But that's nothing in comparison to China. So ironically enough, going and buying a nice little property down in Southern Oregon and developing it and just sort of retiring in the forests of the redwoods and stuff, that's looking awfully attractive to the Beamish right now. So anyway, so disappointed with this stupid country of mine. And the worst part about it is that this is where ideology has just gone right out the window. It doesn't make any sense at all. So the solution of these politicians is to raise taxes and to spend money that they don't have to hyperinflate the society and the working class into the ground. And yet these are supposed to be like leftist governments that are supposed to, theoretically, their electoral base is Joe Sixpack working class schlub. And these politicians are absolutely killing Joe Sixpack's standard of living here. And it makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, it's like politics is completely turned on its head. It's absolutely baffling what's going on here. But like I said, once every 100 years, everything gets thrown out the window. And somebody who's like a card-carrying socialist who is demanding workers' rights and workers' freedoms and stuff like that. You have to look at them and go, Well, you realize that the guys that are theoretically supposed to be on your team are screwing you. It makes no sense at all. Oh well, what can you do? Suppose the good part about all of this, right? And if anything, this is music to all of your people's ears, is this one thing that I think was created by the 1% that wanted some sort of hedge to avoid this whole great reset and the confiscation of a nation's wealth. It's doing its job admirably to offset that destruction. So, I mean, when I first started, I used to joke with Sjoerd when he was a student of ours. He had a stink bid at $600 Bitcoin to buy some. He had a setup when he was a student, and here it is at $60,000. So what is that? That's like 100x. Could you make the argument that the standard of living has fallen 100x since 2013, 14? I don't know whether it would be 100x, but what I did find interesting is like, through the 2008 financial crisis, McDonald's, they had out like cheap hamburgers and stuff that you could get for like a buck and a half kind of idea. And now you go to McDonald's and, their cheap burger, cheap meal is like $5 or $6. So that isn't the burger itself. I guess the burger itself is probably about $3 or $4. So we haven't fallen 100x. So this thing has outperformed dramatically. I'm a little leery about assigning value to Bitcoin here on $60,000, $70,000 a coin. I think that's not totally realistic. But having said that, markets can remain illogical far longer than anyone can remain solvent. And if we are in sort of a inflationary push, people are going to all sort of crowd into trades that they figure are inflationary proxies, or I guess disinflationary proxies, so save some money. So from that perspective, I think the Bitcoin story has done well. Luckily I did get a few Bitcoins for Lili back then, and I've done absolutely nothing with them, and I don't want to do anything with them. And I've said all along that if we ever get to the point where those Bitcoins can buy a house for Lili, then that is what I will go and do with those Bitcoins. Until then, I would just leave them. No reason to touch them. So, they just keep marching higher and higher and higher in value. I suppose they're up to a good 250,000 or so Canadian. And the typical house here in Canada, a half decent house for him, would probably be a better part of $500,000. So one more doubling. If you see Bitcoin at 100, I guess what, let's call it 150,000 US. And I think it's about time I go and start thinking about buying a house for Lili. So I guess we say mission accomplished. I mean, that's not that far away. That's within a hop, skip, and a jump. So anyway, we'll see what happens. Wish Liam luck. I think my general message to everybody of late, and I think it just should make sense. If you do want to buy these assets, do yourself a favor and wait for these damn green boxes. And if you want to teach yourself how to draw these fun little boxes, it's just simply the Fibonacci retracement tool. I don't know whether it's at the top of the list for new people, but there it is, Fib retracement. And all you're going to do is just go in here. They've got a whole bunch of fun defaults and stuff, but just to keep it really simple for you, just, illustration wise, 61.8 to 78.6. Of course, 78.6 is my favorite fib. And if I was ever thinking about investing in an asset and just simply saying I want to wait for the euphoria to come off and see if I can sneak in at like some sort of value level, 80% retracement of the previous asset's peak price, especially if it's like a venture capital asset that goes straight up in value. If you ever get that 80% correction, usually it's a no-brainer buy. But, you know, green boxes, keep it simple. Start with 61.8. That's usually where all the algorithms start coming alive, mathematics. Actually, we're having a lot of fun day trading this ICT guys setup, and it actually sets up really nicely off the 61.8 fib. And of course, you know, I like to call the 61.8 fib my mountain man level because I used to trade with a crude oil trader a million years ago. His name in the pit was Mountain Man. And he used to live by just buying and selling 61.8 fibs. So that's usually a good place to sort of start your thinking. And like I said, if you ever get to the point where you have an 80% correction in price, then you can start saying, you know what, this thing is cheap. So, you know, just keep it simple. There's a nice little tutorial. And of course, this is part of our education program. All level oneers should be like, oh yeah, well, we did this a few weeks ago, Brian. It's always a good idea to ask yourself what question it is that you're trying to answer. And then if you understand the question that you're trying to answer, then you'll know whether this is drawn backwards or not. So if I had an asset that was moving up in price and I want to find that 80% correction window, is that drawn correctly? And the answer is no. That's backwards. So flip it around. And, you know, oh, what a surprise. You know, I've gotten so good at this over the years, I could probably do this in my sleep. So point of the matter here is anytime you see an image that looks like this is actually investable. And what a big surprise. You can see the most recent turn. I mean, this stuff is so cliche. It just writes itself. So this was the low from the sickness bottom. Actually, I even think it was, well, I mean, it doesn't make that much of a difference. Yeah, it was the sickness bottom low that I used there. All the way up to the high there. I mean, that was $4,000. That's 60 fucking grand, you know? So, excuse my French. 69, even higher. Woo-hoo. All right, so there's your green box. Don't overthink this stuff, people. I mean, ironically enough, you know, I've often told people, you know, doing this education program from 10 years, and hell, I was a broker for, 10 years before that, and prop firm trader and all that kind of fun stuff. And I was a admin assistant and operations employees for 10 years before that. I mean, I've been at this game a very long time. And ironically enough, the number one factor that will keep you out of trouble. Jimmy and Liz, are you guys around? Man, I sure hope you're listening. And every single broadcast now for the next year, I'm going to make reference to Jimmy and Liz. I mean, I don't know whether they can handle my profanity and circle jerk references. I sure hope they can. But I will constantly be making reference to you guys. You know, but the most important, parlez-vous français? Mais oui, un petit peu. Anyway, somebody just posted in the YouTube chat channel there or something. But the number one thing that you can do to keep yourself out of trouble, you know, this would be a perfect little short. Chris, I don't know whether you can do, are you doing any of those shorts or not? But the number one thing you can do as an investor to keep yourself out of trouble is learn this reload zone concept. And you just simply say, I am only allowed to invest and buy assets when they're in green boxes. And I mean, just look at this. This is ridiculous how year after year after year, it's the same damn thing. Nothing ever changes. So here we can take this from, this is you know, Sjoerd's $600 BTC bid. Yeah, we can go off of that range. Actually, we've already drawn this, so let's leave that alone. But we'll go here. Let's move that over there. That's what we want. And then we'll just flip that around. I mean, it's stunning how cliche this is. There's your green box, 61.8 to 78.6. Look at that. We've even got a green line right on the 78.6. Oh, we can even call this a shark setup whenever the 78.6 lines up off a previous market structure. And I mean, look at that. It's just, hey, there's Liz. Liz, take a screenshot of that. Like, seriously. You see what they're saying on YouTube here at Google? That would be a good time for you to insert ads so that we could make some money off of you, Beamish. Hey, Google. Actually, I shouldn't. Anyway, we'll just put that away. I mean, the number one thing you can possibly teach yourself in this game is, and you know, everybody watching this knows. In fact, I even put a tweet about it out today. I mean, the irony of it all is that none of this changes. 10 bloody years I've been doing this with you guys. The message never changes. 2 words. Right in here. What are these 2 words? First word starts with a D. Second word starts with a CH. Make it really easy for you. What are you not supposed to do through here? Can you learn this? And if you can't learn this, you're dead. You might honestly be honest with yourself. If you can't control your emotions, you can't control your behavior. Anybody? I guess we don't have anybody on the Zoom call here today, do we? So it's you're all relegated to YouTube here today. Thank you, Shamba. There's a cool name. Man, if you can't, you just can't do this. I mean, God, we could have had this exact same conversation 10 years ago. Nothing changes in this stupid game. Nothing. Thank you, Robert. Liz, I'd like to have seen you have said, don't chase. And, I mean, look at these green boxes. I mean, this stuff, it's just remarkable how cliche this is. This is a decade ago. What do you think, Liz? If we had had this conversation a decade ago, and you had said, all right, Beamish, I'm going to go take $5,000, and I'm just going to go and buy some Bitcoins here because, hey, gee whiz, there's a big fat W, and it's in green boxes, and I just bought $5,000 worth of Bitcoin at 313 bucks. Can you imagine how freaking rich you'd be? And the thing is that I even know people that did this through here. I mean, nothing changes. So, okay, I don't believe you. That's just a one-off Beamish. All right, well, let's do the next cycle. And for whatever it's worth, hint, 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 I actually think this is where we are right now. And I think that this cycle is actually extremely similar to the cycle that we're going through right now. And look at what happened following the halvening event. And you know who is threatening to come into power. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, do I have it in here? I actually went to a Trump rally when I was on the road. Look at this. I even got this, right? Where's the camera? Right there you could go. Look at that. I got this when Adam knows where this is. Oh, I can't. There we go. Got to zoom out so you can see it. But is that backwards? Do you guys, when you read that, does it look backwards? Isn't that interesting? I wonder why they. Oh, because the camera. I think Chris and I we said it anyway. It says, "Don't blame me. I voted for Trump." And the funny thing is, do you remember Adam where we saw this? It is mirrored, eh? Oh, well, so that'll keep me out of trouble with social media. But Adam, tell them where I got this. Where were we out front of? And remember, I thought it was hilarious. The shop that they did this, they sold guns, knives, and beer signs, which I thought was hilarious. How perfectly American. They sell guns, they sell knives, and they sell beer signs. And there was a big old Adam. You're watching the call here today, aren't you? I thought I saw you there. Yeah, happy Sunday. So he was president when this happened. Do you think history might just repeat itself? Well, you tell me. It wouldn't surprise me. So, Elk Grove, is that where it was? Do you remember? It was right. Yeah, it was right in front of that gun shop. They sold. I thought that was hilarious. They sold guns, knives, and beer signs. Because you gotta have your beer sign if you're gonna drink like a drinker. Anyway, so I mean, the same damn thing. Can you see how history just repeats itself? It's ridiculous. If you had just simply said, you know what, I'm going to force myself, that Beamish guy talks about W's. I'm going to wait for a weekly W and I'm going to try and buy at or below green boxes. And let's try and really focus in on things like 78.6s. Oh my goodness. And then, I did work with one guy a few years ago. And, if you really want to get good at this trading stuff, he actually had the balls to step in and buy this reload zone. And I think I've told you guys before, and take a screenshot of this, Liz and Jimmy, please. This is a really, really good example of a reload zone within a reload zone. And think of it more like, what does a triangle look like? Because ideally, remember, the whole damn universe is built on triangles. So hopefully what you can see when you look at an image like this is really, this is nothing more than just a big honking right angled triangle. And really this consolidation is just consolidating. The rule is, obviously this is open to a bit of discretion how far down you want to drag this, but the rule theoretically is that this should break about 2/3 the apex of the triangle. So, where are we here? So if we just go something like that, and of course it's always subjective as to exactly where. Whoop, that's not the tool I want. I want to do. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm wasting time here. So, point of the matter here is reload zones within reload zones at bottom ends of ranges. Oh my goodness. So they did it once. They did it twice. Oh, do you think they might have done it a third time? Oh, look, there's the third time. This one's a little scary because we're not going to get that polite triangle, which kind of sucks. Back here, we never really got the polite triangle either. There was the halvening event. There was a big run up. You can see how close they did. Some people actually argue that the reason why this price went as high as it did was something that was called the Willy bot. So do yourself a favor if you are interested in the history of Bitcoin. Why did price go absolutely insane like this? And it turns out there was an algorithm that was just like, it just went completely haywire. And, what was hilarious about this was there was a guy who was running an exchange called Mt. Gox. And his name was Carpellis, and he actually was spending everybody's bitcoins because he never thought Bitcoin would do this. Then the Willy bot went absolutely crazy, and I remember there were guys that I was working with back here, and I told them, they didn't understand technical analysis and all, and I said, usually a typical bear market is about 18 months in duration. I mean, so don't be in a big hurry, but just let the 18 months go by and then let's see what happens. So interestingly enough, November, December, where is 18 months following that? That would be what? 78 weeks, something like that. So where is 78 weeks from the top? So boom. And 78 right there. Not bad, eh? I mean, if you had said, all right, I will wait a year and a half and let this thing clean itself out and I will start buying. I mean, what letter of the alphabet does that look like right there? So, ironically enough, I think you can probably do this almost every single cycle. I got to tell you, people, I mean, it's remarkable how cliche all this is. I mean, absolutely remarkable. I'll just drag and drop. Let's see if we can do this. Whoops. Yeah, that's what happens is like literally disappears. All right, so there's your rally peak, 78 bars. So that's sort of like right in there roughly. And, about 18 months in duration. you would come back in on the buy side. I mean, this one looks like it resolved a little bit earlier. This is why I actually think that the whole sickness nonsense was actually completely made up. So you can see the market bottomed here a little bit ahead of that 78, 18 months duration. But notice, look how they brought the market right back down into that buying window here through the sickness. So any way you shake it, if you had said, all right, I'm going to wait that 78 weeks and now I'm going to start accumulating. If I can buy in green boxes, just buy. I think a lot of people in the market actually thought that this was the bottom, and they got a bit hoodwinked through that. But man, what an incredible opportunity that one was. So let's see if it did it again. 78 weeks, about 18 months. Where's the peak? There's the peak there. So somewhere around there. Pretty close. And there's 78 bars, or about 18 months. And you can see they did the same thing again. What was interesting through this window right here, of course, this is where Mr. Fink came out and said, hey, ETF, 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 ETF. But, same logic. If you had said, well, typical bear's about a year and a half in duration. As soon as we get down into reload zones, as soon as I start seeing the W starting to come in on price, this one was a little tricky. And nonetheless, there was the weekly W, down, up, down, breakout. So there it was. Right off that damn 78.6, just makes you sick to your stomach. But anyway, shake it. What a big surprise. Now, I mean, the question here is, now that you've heard me say that, is this really a good place for you to go and be risking your hard-earned money? Going and buying here? Oh, come on. So this is what bothers me right now is, and the tweet that I put out here this morning, I think that basically summarizes it. It doesn't really matter whether it's Bitcoin or whether it's these altcoins or whatever. The logic is basically the same. So the message that I put out here was, this is my note to the community today. It looks to me like, number one, if you're going to take some profits, this is the place to take some profits. And this is like the total crypto market cap. So this is like, like the dog money, the Ethereum, the Bitcoins, the all the, AIs, RNDR, the Ocean, LPT. I mean, God, there's some people at TRI that really embrace this message. And hopefully, Jimmy and Liz, unfortunately for you guys, it might mean that you actually have to be patient and disciplined and just wait. Because you can't come in and buy that. If anything, you need to be ringing the register for all your hard work of forcing yourself to come in and buy green boxes. You should be paying yourself for your efforts here. So, message number one is, if you actually had the intestinal fortitude to step in and buy when other people were saying that this shit was going to go to zero, well, you should be paying yourself for your efforts. Now, whether you sell half on a double, which would have been, I guess, in this area here, great, fine. You sell half on a triple, okay, fine. I don't know. It's up to you and your plan. But the point is, for God's sakes, pay yourself for your efforts. I mean, this stuff moves up and down like a horse drawers. So don't kid yourself. That's the worst part about this space, is that when price gets up top here and you hear like people like Alan and stuff going out into the public, there was a guy that actually took the TRI program and he actually went publicly out, and I saw the tweet, we were passing it around TRI the other day, and he's like, but for God's sakes, buy Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin. And it's like, oh, how irresponsible is that? I mean, don't you have a fiduciary responsibility to look after your fellow man? I actually take that kind of stuff super seriously. I don't think a lot of people in this world actually do take that stuff seriously, but it actually means a lot to me. You all know my story. I mean, it's a weird story, but I honestly believe that Spirit asked me to sort of help out humanity here. I don't have a hell of a lot to contribute into this world. I mean, I'm not super strong, not even really that smart. You know what I thought was really interesting? I heard the other day, which totally made me laugh. Let's do a poll. Who do you think is the absolute number one best investor in the world right now? Be interesting to see if you what answer you come up with. And no, it isn't Alan. Alan actually is a horrible investor, but he's a very good engineer. Don't get me wrong there, but a horrible investor. But who is the absolute number one? And he is undisputed right now. Absolutely undisputed. Who is the number one investor in the world right now? Any guesses? Where's Eddie? Eddie, of course, is a huge fan of this guy. So, I don't know about. No, wrong. Homer. Did Homer say buy Bitcoin at $5? Josh says make a poll. All right. Well, you're a marketing guy. Yeah. You tell me how to make a poll, Josh. You're good at all this stuff, not me. Anyway, it's a gentleman by the name of Stanley Druckenmiller. And actually, I was one of his fans back in the original days of the Market Wizards books. And that Market Wizard book, geez, that was written 20, 30 years ago. And he was a pretty damn good investor then. And I think I think actually he trades circles around Buffett. Buffett's a guy like, hey, just buy and slowly get rich over time. And there's nothing wrong with that logic. And if you live to 90 fucking years old and you do apply the sort of dollar cost averaging, buy good quality stocks, you better be rich if you can live that long. And his buddy just died, so his days are probably numbered. But Stanley, he would trade circles around Mr. Buffett. Anyway, so here's an interesting tidbit for all of you and everybody. This should give you actually a major sense of, I don't know whether relief is the right word, but at least encouragement. Stanley could not get into an Ivy League university. Couldn't do it. Why? And he even says it. My SAT, is that what it's called down in the States? I think that's what it is. He even publicly says his SAT scores were horrible. So the irony of making money from investing has very little to do with actual your IQ level and what kind of score you get on SATs. Very little to do with that. It's just understanding some really basic concepts, and then having the what do they call it? The confidence in your conviction. Is that how it goes? Something conviction. Anyway, just believe in yourself. Hello, Stevie B. Good day to you. So, I did find it interesting, and I think it should fill all of you with a sense of, hey, I can do this too. Is number one, just understand the rules of this game. Can you understand that you're supposed to buy in green boxes? I mean, can you understand that? If you can't understand that, then you might as well just pack this up now. I mean, you don't have to have a major high SAT scores to understand green boxes 61.8 to 78.6. Keep it simple, stupid. But what that does imply is, can you come in on the buy side when not only are we nowhere near green boxes, we're actually even above red boxes. I might argue red boxes are actually where you should probably think about maybe unloading, maybe taking some profits, establishing risk-free positions, all that kind of fun stuff. Now we are well above even red boxes. Oh boy, this has got danger written all over it. did find it interesting the other day that I even put out sort of tweets saying, you know, it doesn't surprise me to see what's happening in the marketplace here now. Yeah, that's right, Stevie B. I mean, and Josh, there's a nice little piece of marketing piece for you. I mean, really, all you need to do is just take the basic level 1 education program and then just make damn sure to apply the principles. Location is by far the most significant variable when it comes to investor success, in my opinion. And always start with location. Good part about what we teach you, and if anything, I even put a challenge out to Jimmy and Liz, and I said, look, you won't know this job until you have actually done it for 1 full year. And the way that I know for certain that you will have done it for 1 full year is if you actually enroll in our entire education program. And by time you get to the point where you are writing the level 3 exam, I absolutely have 100% confidence that those people know what they're doing in the market and they have this skill set for the rest of their lives. I don't know whether you can, it does mean that you have to make a sizable investment in your education. But it's weird how there Stevie B says I did up to level 3, well worth the investment. I mean, the interesting thing is that this is very basic stuff, but, we can actually go to the derivatives market and we can ask in the derivatives market whether shorting an asset like Bitcoin or all of its relative, proxies is a good idea right now. And one of the tools that I teach you in the level 3 program, when I want to talk to you about derivatives, I don't want to talk to you level 1ers about derivatives right now because that's just setting you up for disaster. But the level 3ers, we actually go through a very simple model that basically validates whether an idea actually makes sense or not. All right, so Elizabeth says I'll see you in 1 year. And I'm perfectly fine. I made the deal with you, and if anything, if it's one thing that I absolutely am, is I'm a man of my word. And of course, I don't know whether you heard, but I'm very, very interested. In actual fact, I saw an 8-acre piece of land in Crescent City. Chris, you remember we actually stayed at an Airbnb in Crescent Beach. I saw
Crescent City.
Crescent City, is that what it's called? Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw a piece of land there, 8 acres, and it was just like, God damn it, I want to go and buy this. And there was also a whole bunch. One thing I absolutely have always thought would be totally awesome would to be go and buy maybe 10, 15 trailer park units, right? Right now in Crescent Beach, Crescent City, whatever it's called, there's trailer parks. You can go and buy these beat up old trailer park unit things for like $30,000-$40,000. So go and buy a dozen of these things and just be a total fucking slumlord. That would be a totally awesome life. And then if you see people that are sort of not doing very well, and not maybe a little bit could use a break, you just go throw them in one of these things and just say, hey, you know what? The rent's on me for the next year. Just get your act together. Clean your life up. Let's get you a job. Let's get you, maybe even educate a little bit in the venture cap market and, just get you all educated on how to make half decent investments. And then off you go, and I was actually I was surprised actually. There's some pretty interesting little trailer parks down there in that area that, man, they're going for like nothing right now. So go and buy a nice big chunk of land, like a 20-30 acre lot. Well, I definitely think so, Stevie. the Canadian real estate market actually must go through what the Americans went through in 2008. They absolutely. And if you think about it, it makes perfect sense, right? The fear or the greed cycle peak, and now I'm off on a different conversation here, but the greed cycle peak was 2000. And the U.S. real estate market disaster was 2008. So if we use that exact same logic, which I think makes perfect sense, the fear cycle, did I say fear? I meant greed cycle. Greed cycle for the Americans was 2000. And keep in mind, 2000, you couldn't give away Canadian assets. You literally couldn't give them away. But finish this thought line. That was 8 years, right? So 2007 was the peak. That was 7 years. 2008, that was the break. That was 8 years. So our most recent fear cycle peak was 2017, 2018. So 8 years following 2000, let's say January 1st, 2018, would take us to January 1st, 2026. Now, has anybody been barking about maybe even a crypto cycle that might just so happen to peak in 2026? How about Mr. Benner? Where's that Josh guy and his freaking awesome Benner cycle study? Is something supposed to peak in 2026? So in a weird sort of way, I actually think it makes perfect sense that the peak of the market comes here in 2026. And then we have just an absolute disaster in all of these commodity countries. I mean, if you thought price inflation was bad this last cycle, and we've talked about this, I've tweeted this stuff out. In fact, it might even be interesting because it's almost impossible to find this stuff on the website. But if I went... and actually, you know what, Josh, you're there. Josh, did you in any of your blog posts make reference to that 2027, 2028 inflation expectation that corresponds with 1947, 1948? Problem is I don't know whether this is going to work or not. Did anything come up for this? No. What's this nonsense? Fucking Alan. Oh, God. I hate how Alan's totally corrupted this. Anyway, I was kind of hoping... where are you, Josh? I know you're over there somewhere. I saw you step up earlier and say something. Oh, here we go. Okay, so this was 1942. If we actually see this from 1947, oh my goodness, it gets, and you know, if you want a crash course on how inflation actually works, I mean, just go and watch Milton Friedman. There's no point in me barking to you about this.
And you
just
can see
go
that the two lines are
listen
almost
to the expert. I mean, this guy's absolute expert. And look at that. It's even right on exactly the point. I don't know whether I can put this in the YouTube video. Maybe, Chris, you can add that to the description. But, I mean, I won't take credit for any of this, right? Other people are way smarter than me that explain it much more eloquently. If you really want to learn what causes inflation, you know, that stupid idiot leader of my country, he should be forced to sit and listen to this lecture. And then maybe he'll actually acknowledge the fact that Justin Trudeau is the #1 reason why Canada is living through this hyperinflation right now. He is the #1 reason. And the problem with Canadian democracy is this isn't a democracy. Whoever the prime minister of this country is, he becomes a de facto despot dictator, and there's no way you can change it. The only way that you can change it is he's absolutely forced every 4 or 5 years he must call an election, and that's the only check that he has. And so as a result, for 8 years now, This poor country has lived under this idiot, and whatever he wants to do in his silly Klaus von Great Reset bullshit agenda, it gets rammed down our throat, whether we like it or not. Stevie B, right? Klaus and his posse new global reset will be disastrous, and it has been absolutely disastrous for our country. And the irony of it all is it's staring us. The answer, a lot of people in the public are like, why is this inflation happen? They just don't fucking get it. It is so blatantly obvious, and yet for some reason the banksters have just totally hoodwinked our society. And they've made it so that we can't even have this conversation in the public forum. It's disgusting. It just never ends. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Brian going off on rants. So the point that I would just make is, and I was kind of hoping that it would be in here somewhere, but that page right up at the top that I showed you, there he is, dickhead. Anyway, I was kind of hoping the 1927, 1928 inflation numbers made the 1920 I beg your pardon, 40. Getting the centuries mixed up here. The 1943 inflation numbers corresponded to the 2023 inflation numbers. And then 1947, 1948 inflation numbers. And like these guys are really good, but of course I didn't, like a doofus, I didn't put the damn link in here. But the 1948 inflation numbers, 47 inflation numbers, I have a feeling what ends up happening is the market breaks. You might find that real estate prices absolutely collapse, and the only solution, the only way out of it is for these governments to hyperinflate the money supply, massive bailouts, these TD Bank. I mean, it's so funny, and again, I'm just going on rants here, but even just recent posts that I did, this guy here, he's pointing out, you can see, and often this moves as slow as a dinosaur. And it might take 5 years for this to play out, but you can already see it starting to happen. And, if you want a sort of day-by-day, play-by-play commentary,
a Canadian pension fund has dumped an office building for $1, and essentially we are seeing cracks in the financial system that could create a financial crisis, especially when it comes to one.
Oh, Alan and his corrupting of this wonderful Twitter. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make here is that this gentleman, if you want sort of this guy just basically does a day-by-day, play-by-play of the market. This gentleman, I don't know how to load. I'd like to give him a shout out because I think he does excellent work.
A Canadian pension.
I can't get the link. What the hell's going on here?
A Canadian pension fund has dumped an office building for $1, and essentially we are seeing.
What is Alan done here? Anyway, I would like to show you this, but I can't seem to. Nope, this doesn't work. Oh well, maybe it's for something to do with Brave. But anyway. The point I would just make is this guy does great work. In fact, actually, he's probably over here. Let's see. How can I do this? You probably see it because I like to follow him. Where is he? This guy also too. This guy's a down to earth real estate agent. He's a real estate agent from actually the city that I spent my formative years in Southern Ontario, in St. Catharines. So if you are a Canadian, I think this guy's a good sort of common sense commentator on the market. But there's also another gentleman. He does more sort of like, it's the end of the world kind of idea commentary. And of course he gets a million bazillion likes and follows and
a Canadian
subscribers. This guy here. But I think he's fun to listen to. I think he's got a good take on it. And you can just see this reminds me exactly of the U.S. Real estate market in, say, 2005, 2006, 2007, as we were approaching the breaking point, it gets more frothier and more frothier and more frothier. I mean, hell, the local politicians now have changed the zoning laws to prop up the real estate market by simply saying, now we don't care whether you have single family homes on your lots. You can build up to like a 10-unit apartment building on your single family home lot in your neighborhood now in Canada. So that in essence has just like lit a fire under real estate developers, because now they're going into like suburban neighborhoods and they're going to start putting up these apartment buildings. And I don't know, have you ever seen what Hong Kong looks like from the sky? I mean, really, I think that their plan, oops, let's see if I can actually type. I think that their plan is to turn like a city like Vancouver into something like Hong Kong, where all it is just one skyscraper after another skyscraper after another skyscraper, the whole damn city. And I think there's like, I don't know, I think there's like 20 million people or something. It's all just high rises. And I think that's ultimately, if the banksters got what they want, ultimately they want to turn cities like Vancouver into this kind of nightmare scenario. And of course, you know, the politicians, they love this because, you know, the property taxes for, you know, a 50-story skyscraper, obviously the property tax that they collect is just going to be absolutely, through the roof. They're going to have all the socialists. They're just going to have an incredible coffers to work with. So it's sort of a win-win. The politicians win because their tax base will go up. The developers theoretically win. The only people that lose, of course, is actual, like, the ants living in this. You know, you will not live in a single-family home. You will live in a skyscraper and you will like it. And if you don't like it, there's a prison cell for you just down the way. You think this is bad living? Hey, I got an excellent concentration camp that I'd love to introduce you to. So you either like it or you get the fuck out. And as I said, you know what's fascinating is there's a huge swath of land from about halfway down the Oregon coast to, geez, I'd probably even say, remember, who was our real estate agent there in North America, or in Northern California? Remember that guy? What was his name? Dale? I don't know whether Chris remembers.
Dale Bridges?
Dale Bridges. That's right. And where was he? He was from nice California.
Yeah.
Anyway, Chris and I, we drove down the West Coast. A whole bunch of fun memes from that trip. But what's fascinating is that there's a huge swath of land there that nobody lives in. I mean, it's all just wild forest. I think I want to move there, to be honest with you. Maybe I'll keep like a one-bedroom apartment or something in this nonsense, just so I can keep an eye on Liam. And then, of course, when Bitcoin gets to the price, we'll go and buy Liam's house for him. But in the short term, geez, there is one piece of property down there. So, Liz, when I come down and buy you and Jimmy your steak dinners, which is going to probably cost me the better part of $1,000 a year from now, but I am going to be actually justifying the trip, because I'm going to be stopping in and looking at a whole bunch of places that I might just go and buy there in Southern Oregon, Northern California. Anyway, we'll see what happens. Only time will tell. Okay, so where was I? Rant. Not quite sure how I got off on all those tangents. But if you just can understand this concept of green boxes, man, it'll keep you out of a lot of trouble. So as it stands right now, obviously I can't come in and talk about buying Bitcoins here. And unfortunately, when it comes to a lot of cryptocurrencies, it's the same logic. I can't be a buyer here. So it's hard for me to sit here week after week commentating to you guys as the price is zipping all around up here. I mean, you could argue just in the past month, this silly thing has been as low as 50 grand and as high as 73,000. $25,000 price swings here in under a month. And I bet you guys don't even acknowledge this. You don't even realize how crazy this is. I mean, remember, there were years when there's $20,000 itself. And there was a very long period of time when this thing basically traded between about $1,000 and $150. I mean, look how long that window is. That's, years, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. And then, of course, it started going crazy in just this third, like a year and a half window it does this. So please, I hope you all, I don't know whether you do or not, but is this normal price action? I don't think so. This is the definition of a market going parabolic. You've probably heard that expression before. And then we will get into a time period. I don't know when, but my hunch is probably sooner rather than later, where price will work its way back down. We'll first start with things like Collins pump chaser zones. And my hunch is that kind of like what we saw in this 15 market state over here. You notice that the extent of this correction with these weekly moving averages, as bullish as they are, the extent of the correction was nothing more than just a retest of the previous breakout range. And there were so many buy orders all stacked up here that as soon as the market got down into that area, it was almost like the market literally hit like a hot stove or something, and went, get me out of there. I mean, look how violent that move was. So my hunch is we're probably going to see something along the same lines. I've also told you too, and again, Liz and Jimmy, I think it's important that you don't just end your conversation at level 1, because there's just so much we have to teach you. Level 2 concepts that, really it could just all be level 1. Maybe what I'll do if I ever retire TRI is I will just teach this program and say, sorry, it is a 36-week program. And if you don't like it, don't take the program. I don't care. But the long and short of it here is you have to acknowledge, look how wide these moving averages got here, right? You can see how wide the moving averages got here. They had to come together. It's just what good moving averages do. Even on the bear side, look how wide these moving averages, at some point, the moving averages have to come together. Look how wide the moving averages are here. At some point, these moving averages have to come together, etc., etc., etc. So the point being that when they're really, really wide like this, if you are long, then you have to say, okay, this must be the going parabolic phase of the market. And if they're the exact opposite and they're heading down, well, this must be they're throwing the baby out with the bathwater part of the market. So, this unfortunately we do in level 2. We just can't teach you in level 1. But the point of the matter is when you see these moving averages this wide, number one, you have to say, well, that's the fast moving average is above the slow moving average, so that's a rip-roaring bull. But maybe these things are just a little bit too far apart. Maybe it would be in my best interest, if I'm thinking about putting money into the market, that I just wait for these moving averages to come back together. And can I please get some sort of W to work with? And it turns out, actually, we got a nice little breakout there, which lays the foundation for the next move up. And of course, anybody that did the education program with me, you probably know, well, hopefully you know, that really all this is a bullish bot setup. So we can go boom to boom. Correction was 33, but no more than 66. So you can see it did 50%. And then we can throw on our bot trade levels. And of course, they're always backwards, but that's another conversation for another day. And what a surprise. Look how the 25 level, or the entry for the bot, is basically that double bottom. You think that's an accident? I don't. So the point being that the moving averages come back together. We get sort of a cleanup, 1 low, 2 lows, 3 lows, 4 lows. Hey, little double bottoms, great buy signal, away we go. And you look how the market rallied right into that bot objective and then came slamming back down into 50% rolls. So you could do another bot off of this, right? And it just goes on and on and on. Ideally, what I'd love to hear is, let's say you bought this W, sell half on a double, sell half on a triple, whatever works best for you. You're taking some profits into these blow-off tops, and then you just have a risk-free trade for the rest of your days. I don't know where the hell this thing's going. I'm not going to tell the market where it's going. It's just going to go where it goes. That's the best way to play this capitalist game. And then also remember, too, if you can get into that risk-free trade and then put those coins or stocks, shares in companies, it doesn't really matter, currency units, whatever, commodities, cows, right? How many cows do you think we could stuff into your backyard there, Liz and Jimmy? That'd be kind of funny. You ever thought of taking delivery of a futures contract? Anyway, point is, get yourself into that risk-free trade, get those free units on the books, and then there's no tax implications for those free units. There's just no tax implications because there's no capital gain. You own the units. You sold enough to get your original capital back. You want to sell a little bit more to pay the tax bill on that sale. Fine, that's not a bad strategy. If anything, sell half on a 2.618, and it's the 0.618 that goes to the tax man. There's nothing wrong with that thinking. But once you get into the free position, you've just got those assets. And what a lot of people do, and I bet that this is exactly what's going to happen with Bitcoin, is you get that free position. Let's say, you sold at the bot, and then, hypothetically, we went long here at 592, and you're selling into these crazy ass bot targets up top here. You get your risk-free trade. You can see this peak. Maybe this was the level you said. Look at, I'll sell half on a break at new highs, whatever. Point being, you get that risk-free trade. Now you've got those risk-free Bitcoins sitting on a cold storage wallet. Maybe you want to put them on an exchange. But ultimately, at some point down the road, and I think this is exactly what their plan is, if this asset becomes so valuable, and let's just do the math. I mean, this will blow your mind. But let's say, hypothetically, you came in and you bought this level at 610, right? How ironic, that's Sjoerd's level. So I'm going to invest $5,000 at 610, we said. So how many coins did I buy there? That means I bought, and what time is it? Do we have any questions in the Q&A document today? God, it's incredible how quickly.
We do. Huh? We have about 2 or 3 questions. Yes, we do.
Oh, crap. Okay, you know what? I can't do this today. But the point here is that you'd probably be able to, let's just quickly do the math. Let's see if I can do this. So divided by 610 means you bought 8 coins. All right, we'll just make it a friendly 8. So you end up selling, I don't know, let's say you sold that, figure out what your capital gains are. I'm not going to get into all that sort of tax problem here. But let's say you sell 4 at, I don't know, let's say, 1,400. Just simple number. So you get all your original capital back, plus you have enough money to pay whatever the hell the tax bill is. Boom. That means technically you have 4 Bitcoins on the books, no cost. And as long as you don't sell them, then there is no capital gain. What do all these fat cats, Zuckerberg, frickin' Allen, Bezos, probably even Buffett for that matter, Microsoft, Billy Gates and stuff, what do these guys do with their shares when we go zipping up here? Because keep in mind, those 4 free Bitcoins now And 68,000. How much money is that? That's 68 times 4, just roughly. That's about $300,000, somewhere in that neighborhood, right? Can you not use that as collateral and actually borrow money from the bank using that Bitcoin as collateral? That's what all these fat cats do. So, you could put, that $300,000 asset, use it as a collateral. I don't know how much could you borrow against that? Maybe like 50%. Now you got $150,000, $175,000. It's tax free because it's a loan. And ironically enough, I think I don't know whether the interest is deductible in China, but I think the interest is deductible down in the States. So, and that's the way the fat cats play this world, right? Is they establish those risk-free trades, the asset goes zooming up in value, and then they use the asset as collateral and they just borrow against it, and all of that money is tax-free. So, finish that thought. Food for thought for you there, Jimmy and Liz. That's where ideally we want to get you guys. Get those risk-free trades on. Let them appreciate in value. They get up so valuable that you can actually use them as collateral, and you just play with the bank's money. That's the way all these rich fat cats in our society do it. So anyway. Thank you, the Josh McGowan. Totally awesome. They do that with real estate too. Yeah, that's right. Totally. I mean, that's the way these idiots play this game. And then, to add insult to injury, they'll go and buy a property in some economically challenged neighborhood, and then they use that property as a depreciating asset, and they just say, oh, well, it turns out that there was a riot in Hoboken, Wisconsin. I mean, the craziest fucking place in the world for a riot to occur. But all of a sudden, mysteriously, there's a riot, and so now they can actually write off the depreciation of the property as an offset for their income. I mean, it's incredible, and and you see it on YouTube, right? Dave Chappelle, he's constantly going on about how Trump totally embarrassed Hillary Clinton in that last electoral debate, where Clinton goes, well, he doesn't pay any taxes, and he goes, because that's because I'm smart. And you want me to pay taxes? Change the tax code. But you'll never change the tax code because Hillary Clinton, all the fucking people that back you, they're the ones that lobbied to get those tax laws put into place. So there's no way Clinton would ever change that tax code, or Obama, or fucking skeleton Biden, because it was the people that put them into power that actually demanded those tax laws. So, I mean, gotta hand it to Trump. He's like, look, you want me to pay more taxes? Well, just change the tax code. And if it's one thing that I've seen that actually pisses me off to no end, is I have literally watched since the year 2000, one U.S. president after another U.S. president after another U.S. president. It doesn't matter whether they're on the right or on the left or they're center. They all keep cutting taxes on the rich. And you wonder why we have these budget problems and these deficit problems and this hyperinflation. I mean, this shit, Junior Bush was terrible. He actually Junior, don't get me started on Junior Bush. He was the worst about it because, number one, I think he was so ignorant. I mean, he's not that smart of a guy, that I think that the banksters and all the people that were pretty damn smart and knew how the system worked, they just used him, including his father. But, that's another conversation for another day. And, by the way, who do you think Brian thinks actually got Bitcoin going? That guy. But like I said, I find it hilarious that the guy who's running the U.S. Federal Reserve right now, turns out he was a crony of George Bush Sr. And where did JP make all of his money? He made it working as the arms salesman. I mean, he was basically the Saudi Arabian arms bankster for financing all of the arms deals that the Carlyle Group did. I mean, it's shocking how cliche all this is if you really peel back the layers of the onion to see how brutally corrupt the whole fucking thing is. Anyway, I digress. All right. I've only got, I don't have much time left here. I've got about 15-20 minutes. I mean, I hope you enjoyed the rant about Bitcoin and the market and our hyperinflation world that we live in. I mean, I can't come out and say, you know, this is a good time to buy Bitcoin. This is a good time to invest in Bitcoin, because it just isn't. It just, in my opinion, it isn't. But having said that, you know, if you're long from nothing, then great. You're enjoying. Hey, there's Eddie. You're enjoying life. If you did like Eddie did, and you did like things like Sjoerd, I will say I'm over the top impressed. We came up with a plan with regard to crypto investing, and the TRI team has executed the plan, and Sjoerd has done an excellent job on execution. And so as a result, you know, we have a number of names that we really do like in this space, and this Flux is another one that Mr. Panicook has added to the repertoire. Oh, it's already in here. Did I do that right? Let's try that again. All right. I guess we'll put that over there as well, just so it's in here. But the long and short of it here is, if you actually did step in and do what you were supposed to do when you were supposed to do it, you should be absolutely laughing right now. And, you know, I mean, I don't want to put a target on his head, but that gentleman who just said hello there in the room, he did exactly what you were supposed to do. No excuses. He was, of course, able to participate in markets that me and China I'm not allowed to participate in. So as a result, he's much more flexible than I am. The good part about Sjoerd, of course, is that he is very, very comfortable operating in the DeFi space. And of course, he's very, very good at identifying value. And I mean, bear market, what bear market? This damn thing just keeps grinding its way higher. So TRI has nothing to complain about here. I'm a little bit salty because I didn't buy as much as I wanted to buy, but, you know, Brian's made excuses, blah, blah, blah. And the little bit account that I am managing is moving up nicely. I've got nothing to complain about, and it's just slow and steady wins the race. The problem here, though, you know, and this renders a perfect example, is, are there any weekly W's? Let's change this to a weekly chart. Keep this as simple as possible. Are there any weekly W's happening here now at, like, what is this, $12, $13 a coin? No. The weekly W, the really good one, was like right down here. That's at 57 cents. And then, of course, there's this huge W right here. That's at 87 cents. It's $12.87. Well, wait a minute. You can't come in on the buy side here, folks. I'm sorry. I mean, you all want me to say, yeah, you know what, go and buy it. You'll get rich, you guaranteed. But that is not in your best interest. I really hope you can appreciate that, people. I really hope you can. And if anything, what you need to be now, if you really do want to participate in this stuff, is you have to be patient and disciplined. Do you see a weekly W here at $1.54? No. When was the last weekly W? And the great part about learning at TRI is we actually teach you a setup that often gets you to buy these damn weekly W's, 1 higher low, 2 higher lows, 3 higher lows. If you have to have the patience and discipline to wait for 3 higher lows, then odds are you're going to be getting into weekly W's. Point here is, okay, I would have been perfectly fine with you coming in February and buying this But here we are, we're coming into this big fundamental event window here in the next month or so. Do I want you coming in and risking your hard-earned money here? The answer is an unequivocal no. So I hope you can appreciate that. And a lot of my messages right now, and I'll just circle back because really we should probably finish this and then get off to the questions. But a lot of my messages to the public just simply are, look, if you miss the buying opportunity, then you miss the buying opportunity. It's as simple as that. What you should be doing right now is if you did buy when you were supposed to buy, well, for God's sakes, pay yourself for your hard efforts. This is not easy. Stepping in and buying where you're supposed to buy is actually very difficult. So for God's sakes, pay yourself for all your hard work. If you have already taken profits, well, then there's nothing to do. Just got to sit back and count your money. Look how fucking rich I am, huh? Look at that. I got all my original capital back in my hands and I got all these coins. Look at me. But that's it. There's nothing else to do. And for God's sakes, if you didn't buy, don't let your emotions, your number one emotion is envy. This is why people chase. They're envious of the people that did buy where they were supposed to and that have run the register, and they're going out and shopping for their Lambos now. It's the envy that gets you to say, fuck it, this thing's just going to keep going. I'm going to get rich too. And usually that's a trap. So, this unfortunately is my message for all of you. If you did get in when you were supposed to, great, ring the register, pay yourself for your efforts, way to go. If you have already taken profits and rung the register, then kick back and relax. And you've listened to Brian barking for fucking 2 hours about this, that green boxes are where you want to be a buyer. And what a surprise if this thing comes back down into green boxes and Brian's favorite fib. Really, all it's going to do is just come right back down against the original bottom. And what a surprise, 9 times out of 10 this happens, is I'll sell an asset at double I bought it at, then I wait patiently, and it comes right back down to the original buy point. It makes a higher low, and it makes a higher high, but the irony of it all is I'm just buying the asset right back at where I originally bought it. And that happens over and over and over. In fact, somebody even asked me today, they just asked, and they asked very politely, so I was like, all right, I'll do the work. And I did up a write-up on Doge, and it's the same thing. You can see where I bought it. This is a longer time frame, and yeah, believe it or not, I think the dog money is going to work its way up into some staggering levels. And if it actually, if we sit one day and you hear that, it turns out that Alan's put a big Doge flag on Mars. Yeah, you're going to find Doge is going crazy and everybody's circle jerking about how wonderful life is because we have a Doge flag on Mars. I don't know how that works, but if it's one thing you got to hand it to Alan, and other people have said it before, is he's like Barnum and Bailey. I mean, he is an excellent circus master. I hate to say it, anybody who invested in that Tesla stock over the past 4 years is actually losing money now. I wonder if anybody's actually going to admit that. Turns out, if I had bought any Tesla stock over the past entire Biden presidency, I'm actually now losing money. Is anybody going to admit that? I doubt it. Anyway, do the math. Go pull up the chart. You'll see for yourself. So ultimately, yeah, I could see dog money work its way up into here. But what's really interesting is if you actually drill in to what this looks like, you can see this is where I bought. Very typical. Reload zone, 78.6s. And really, you can see here's huge move up, pullback. Surprised actually I don't have it on here. Oh yeah, here it is. So 61.8, 78.6. It's kind of hard to see. But there is the reload zone fib. So Brian just doing what he does. He's long from 78.6. That's where I bought, right down in there. And as soon as it doubles in price, you know, Brian, he's going to let half of it go. Unfortunately, this thing actually doubled again, but Sjoerd wasn't fast enough to get the second double order working. But if anything, you know what? I'm actually kind of comfortable with just riding the rest of this. But if this does pull back down into 78.6 green boxes, what a surprise. Do you see how 78.6 lines up perfectly off of this W? And this is where I originally bought. So what you're saying is I'm basically going to go in and buy pretty much exactly the same level. Do you see how this works? And it's ironic. Let's circle back in 6 months and see if the middle of the summer into that election, you know, maybe, hell, fucking Trump made an off comment about the Chinese building cars in Mexico and them planning on dumping those cars that they built in Mexico into the United States market tariff-free. And Trump said that if I'm elected, I'm going to strap a massive tariff on those cars, which makes sense because you know how much he likes the Chinese. And then he said, you know, if I'm not elected and the Chinese do flood the U.S. market with these cheaply made Mexican built cars, there's going to be a bloodbath in the U.S. auto industry. Instantly, the fucking woke leftist media machine picked up on the term bloodbath and then just tried to fucking just completely destroy Trump. Oh, bloodbath. You see it. There's evidence. He's going to start a war. He's going to kill you. He's going to kill you. I mean, it's like, fuck. I mean, it's brutal how bad this leftist media machine is. I mean, I'm not commenting on whether there's going to be a civil war. There's going to actually be bloodletting. My hunch is there is, but that's another conversation for another day. But it's just remarkable how quickly all he has to do is make a reference to something as obscure as the Chinese auto industry dumping cars into the U.S. market and making a reference to what a bloodbath it's going to be. And all of a sudden the fucking leftist media goes nuts. So the point I would just make is you can't predict the future. Nobody can. Just don't get into the business of predicting the future. What I'm just going to simply say is statistically, the odds of this thing working its way back down into reload zones and me giving myself the ability, and I think I've shown you this and I keep talking way too much. I got to get the hell out of here. And actually, I don't. Oh my goodness, look what time it is. All right, you know what? I'm going to have to do the questions in Monday's after party because, oh man, I'm sorry. I just talked way too much today. Sorry, everyone. You're just going to have to come back and watch the after party tomorrow. Sorry. It's just the way it goes. What a doofus. Anyway, I show you this all the time, right? How do I get the multiple cars on? So at the very top of the market, when everybody's going absolutely crazy, and, you know, everybody's talking about fucking doges on Mars and whatever, and the price is way up here, how do I have those multiple cars on so that when the market does get up top here, I'm ringing the register for like Lambos? Well, the answer is I just simply sell halves on doubles or whatever, you know, and then, you know, I'll put a little bit aside for the tax man, fine, whatever. And then when the market does dip back down into green boxes, reload zones, then I'll go and add another car. And we just keep doing this over and over and over to the point where you get a whole bunch of cars on your car carrier. And then when the market does go absolutely crazy into this 26 cycle peak, which I think is completely realistic. I don't know where this goes. I think conservatively, we're probably going to shoot for $30, $40 a dog money coin. If you see flags of dog money on Mars and it's a complete circle jerk and everybody's falling in love with Alan, you could very easily see this thing $1,000 a coin. I'm not going to get into the business of predicting where the hell this thing's going to top out, but just kind of like what we showed you with Bitcoin, very typical, very normal. Usually these AB equals CD objectives get hit, And, same sort of thing. This one just tagged the 1.618. I've told you guys repeatedly, if you ever see a 1.618 tag, odds are that's probably your top, and that's a fantastic trade location. It was also a 4669. I don't know whether Sjoerd's going to take any profits on this or not. It's up to him. He's running the plan. But if I was trading this, I definitely would have run the register there a little bit. But you also see it on Bitcoin, right? It's the same logic. No difference. A, B, C, D. In this particular case, there is your bot objective. Here are the alt A, B, C, D objectives. And believe it or not, with regard to Bitcoin, I could very easily see them over the next week or two go and run this thing right back up against the highs. I had said in Friday's commentary and Thursday's commentary, I think that half the reason why this market came off as it did was it was all because of the options expiry that was happening this week. This particular date, Friday, was a huge institutional options expiry date, the 15th of March, the third Friday of March, March being a triple witching calendar month. Not a big surprise. You saw some serious volatility around this. But at the same time, too, I don't think that this is a top. And what I did on the total market cap to try and give you an idea of why I don't think this is a top is we have location. Great. Oh, what a big surprise. Bot levels were hit. And I put a tweet out to this effect. Liz and Jimmy and everybody else, of course, in level 1. I'm picking on them because I happened to meet them over the past few months. But, if I had met any of you other level 1ers, I'd be picking on you too. You know exactly where I will turn bullish again, green boxes. You see where Brian's favorite fib is. And oh, what a surprise. This was that Peter Fink wants his Bitcoin ETF bullshit. And oh, big surprise, there's the most recent solid little W down in there. And there's also a bigger W here. So you can see exactly where Brian wants to be bullish. And when I draw the fib right now, oh, what a surprise. There's 78.6 and there's green boxes. I mean, this shit writes itself. But at the same time, too, do I have enough anecdotal evidence to call a top here? I've got location. Okay, great. Do I have indicator confirmation? Nothing out of MACD yet. Nothing really out of volume. I mean, yeah, we had a lot of selling there. But at the same time, too, I think it was a lot of sort of panic. And, of course, I think it also had a lot to do with the options expiry. The sort of first sign of Bitcoin showing a little bit of weakness, and the noobs, they all start going fucking crazy. And this, of course, comes to patience and discipline. Ironically enough, for us to actually start the divergence conversation, we do need to see some pullbacks. And on Bitcoin in particular, we are starting to see those divergence messages. So things like the daily Bitcoin chart, and I've been barking about this, we actually do have a pretty well-defined failure in RSI. This was a second M, but above the 50 line. So what it actually represents is a weak sell signal. If this M had come in through the 50 line, and oh, what a surprise, the sell-off panic dump low there was back to the 50 line there. So I would actually argue that this was a weak sell signal. It was a sell signal nonetheless. And until we actually start seeing W's again, we can't really be bullish of Bitcoin. I just say, to be honest with Bitcoin, just leave it alone. And of course, if you've listened to usually this market tops out about a month ahead of the halving event, and we're coming up to this insane eclipse window. And of course, we've got FOMC coming up here. I mean, there are a lot of reasons to look for some sort of pivot through here. So, frankly speaking, I like the idea. Don't touch Bitcoin right now. You're just asking for trouble getting involved in that. But at the same time, too, remember I said moving averages are a mile wide. So you probably ought to just be patient and disciplined and wait for this to clean itself up, come back down into Collins pump chaser zone, and kind of like what we've shown, a typical sort of halving event end game is nothing more than a 50% retracement of whatever this big bull run was. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen here. Having said that, with regard to the total market cap, and hell, you saw the REND and you saw the Flux. I mean, there's still a lot of money pouring into this space, and I don't think that that's over by a long shot. The issue here is, did we just hit a profit-taking level? That's the bot setup. If you had bought this inverted head and shoulders breakout and bought the bot level there, you should be ringing the register, taking profits. Exact same thing that I just said about, the entire sort of, that tweet where, number one, pay yourself for your hard-earned efforts. Number two, blah, 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 blah. Does this actually represent a short? Well, we have location. So that's the start. Remember I had said half of this game is you just understanding location and make damn sure you're not walking into a trap if you're buying. This is a terrible buying location. But is it ready to short and actually a justifiable short? Again, we don't have any indicator confirmation. The only indicator confirmation that we have is Willie, my overbought, oversold indicator, is simply saying, look, if you wanted to be bullish, great, be bullish, but you're way too late. You're just way too late. Sorry. You were supposed to buy here, right? You see the W in price. You see, hell, there's a nice little bot entry there, but I don't even really like that. Yes, we came out of overbought zone, so that's good, but then we quickly jumped right back into overbought. So I don't even really like longs in here. Having said that, I am having fun playing in the Solana land and fucking around with those little shit coins, but that's not investing. That's just messing around in the market. So I don't have any indicator confirmation. So when I put the tweet out, I put an upside down check mark. We're not there yet. Yes, we're overbought, but this is step one, location. Great. Then we have to have indicator confirmation. I have no divergences here in momentum, which means we could probably push up into 127s, 1.618s. I love this low to high trend line. Again, Liz and Jimmy, I highly encourage you to finish the education program with me. This is a really powerful concept that we teach you in the level 2 program. And oh, what a surprise. Have we hit that trend line yet? No, we haven't hit it yet. Do I expect us to hit it? Yeah, actually I do. So there's another reason you're not going to know this until you've done this for a full year. So you might as well take the year and finish the education program so you can incorporate things like trendline analysis into your thinking, which we just can't get to in level 1 because we just don't have enough time. Anyway, there's a sales pitch, Jim and Lizzie. I would like for you, Jim and Lizzie. That's what I'm going to call you from now on. I think it's Liz and Jimmy, right? I like that though. Jim and Lizzie. Anyway, so are we at a top here yet that I can actually justify shorting? No. Well, we've got location, great. And yeah, there are a bunch of location indications up here, but we don't have indicator confirmation yet. And, once the indicator confirmation comes in, divergence and all that, then we actually want an M to actually justify the actual trade and be able to frame risk. We don't have any of that at all yet. So is Brian a bear right now? Absolutely not. Is Brian if you miss the buy window, you miss the fucking buy window, and don't be a fool and chase. Absolutely. That's exactly where I am right now. And of course, as I said there a moment ago, if you did buy off of the bottom when you were supposed to, then you should be at the very minimum establishing risk-free positions. Okay, I got to head off to Lily now. My apology to the level 1 students. We'll spend the better part of tomorrow's after party going through your guys' questions. And frankly speaking, it's probably better to do that because then that way you get individualized attention. So if you did ask a question in that document, make darn sure to be on the Daily Brief after party tomorrow. If you can't, maybe just go into the Daily Brief request room and say, Brian, I post, or go into the document and say, Brian, I can't be here for the Monday Daily Brief, but I will watch it afterward to make sure that I watched. So I'm just going to simply leave off with, if you did buy when you were supposed to, congratulations. You should be swimming in money right now. If you didn't buy where you were supposed to, don't lose your patience and discipline, and don't chase. Just, you're going to have to wait for a better buying window to form and develop. And number 3, we have been talking about this window that the market should top somewhere through this for now at least a month or 2. So no, I don't think anything is different. I think the public is acting exactly the way the public does act coming into tops. They believe that this time is different. And, you know, congratulations to them. They're going to basically be selling in, no, I beg your pardon. They are going to be buying into my sell orders. And the only way I can get my sell halves on a doubles, triples, and quadruples filled is I have to have some suckers come in and buy the top of the market. That's an awfully rude way of describing it, but frankly speaking, that's probably in your best interest. That you have to understand the losers and the idiots that are coming in and chasing these markets, they are buying our sell orders, and we are going to take your money and we're going to go buy our properties in backcountry Oregon with your money. So thank you very much for your contribution, and let's hope you can learn not to chase and not buy my sell orders. If you can't learn, well, I'll just keep taking your money from you. And on that note, I think have yourselves a fantastic rest of your day. Wish Lilia and I luck on the roads. Always a challenge driving in the Lower Mainland. And this time next week, I should be bitching and complaining about how the price of gasoline for my car is going to go up about 15% or so. Oh, I beg your pardon, in 2 weeks' time, and how ironic, the tax hike is going through on April 1st, so how appropriate, April Fool's Day. Mr. Trudeau is going to fool the entire nation into conning them into thinking that he's working on their behalf, when actually he's just working on Klaus and the banksters' behalf. And maybe, if we're lucky, he'll even come out publicly and acknowledge the fact that he's not working for Canadians. He's working for Klaus. I don't know. All right. Have yourselves a great day, everybody. PMA for the win. If you want to learn this, get your butt in our education program. And I guarantee you, after a year working with me, you will be a smart, informed investor and know how to play this game correctly. If not, I'll be more than happy to give you your money back. And I have yet in 10 years to have anyone ask for their money back. So that's how confident I am in my guarantee. Have yourselves a great day. All the best. The only thing left for me to say to you is bye for now.